وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من أن أضل أو أضل، أزل أو أزل، أظلم أو أظلم علي، أظلم أو أظلم، أزهل أو يزهل علي. ويسر ولا تعسر بالخير وتمن بالخير وبك نستعين وبك. آمين. Honorable elders, respected brothers and sisters, we begin as always with the praise of Allah, with the thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking His protection, seeking His pleasure. We seek His nearness. We seek His choicest salutations and salawat on all the prophets and messengers, in particular our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perpetuate His blessings upon them all, and may He elevate their ranks and give them khair al-jaza on behalf of all of us. Dear respected brothers and sisters, we are in the third week of Sha'ban. Each day that passes by brought us closer, rather I should say further closer to the month of Ramadan. It is just a matter of days that we find ourselves in the month of Ramadan. The known supplication that we have heard, perhaps recited and supplicated to Allah for is the dua that we should frequently recite, asking Allah to bless us in these days and deliver us safely to the month of Ramadan. That we are able to receive this blessed of Rahman with energy, enthusiasm, excitement, and also commitment to the month. My dear brothers and sisters, you know that the month of Ramadan is exclusively the month of ibadat, the month of devotion and obedience to Allah. So when we say month of Ramadan is the month of devotion, dedication and obedience to Allah, in other words, it's a month especially and in particular not to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need to shun away, to restrain, restrict, and get away from all kinds of sins. All kinds of sins, major and minor, not just the major one. That is the first pre-step to make Ramadan prosperous and make Ramadan blessed and more productive in one's life. And with that you add devotional deeds and fulfill the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we talk about disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it is a reality of our time, my brothers and sisters, we live in a very profane world, a world which is filled and thrives on licentiousness, disobedience, and sins, and all forms and kinds of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prevalent, not just in the society, but because of the nature and the knowledge of the society, even the Muslim community, is indulged and involved in all forms and kinds of sins. Because in just a few days ago,
some of the situation that I had to deal with. It reminded me of, once again, the situation that we have degraded ourselves to, despite being the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is a matter of concern, it is a matter of sadness. However, opportunities like Ramadan, come in our life to change us, make us a better and best Muslims, and to get out of things that have been very destructive in our life, hindrance, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of the nature of the month of Ramadan, many things become easier for a person to get into as a habit, develop certain habits and perfect them and improve them. All of this is possible. So this, what I'm saying is, as Ibn Rajab Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala, in his book Lataif al-Ma'arif, he talks about this, and then he says in the chapter of the month of Sha'ban, obviously, as weak as we are in terms of our religiosity, in terms of our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says that this is why Rasulullah himself is known to increase his fasting, for example, dawat and obedience and dua. So that was a kind of preparation to the month of Ramadan. So for people like us, because they were at a different level of their devotion and obedience to Allah. Therefore, they did not have to think too much of sins and disobedience. So the fact of the matter, in fact, he mentioned one incident in his book, that back in those days, slavery was common. So somebody bought a female slave to serve the family. So just look at the condition of servants of that time. So as she was brought in the family, and she noticed two things, in two different examples and scenarios that he mentions. In one example, it is said that when she noticed that people were really getting ready to start the fasting, and then preparing themselves for the month of Ramadan and whatnot. So she asked them, what are you preparing for? They said, because Ramadan is about to start, so we need to fast every day, of course, right? So therefore we have to get ready for that. So she was shocked and surprised that, so you consider yourself as Muslim and you only fast in the month of Ramadan? I have been with people in my past who treated pretty much the whole year as all year round something as a normal to practice. So I'm not happy to be with you, so therefore return me back to where you have brought me from. And likewise, another example that he mentions, that as Ramadan was about to start, people were, in the month of Sha'ban perhaps, he didn't mention the exact timing, but she noticed that some people were not waking up for tahajjud. And then she realized this, and as Ramadan started, they started praying tahajjud. And she again said the same thing, that you only acknowledge the importance of tahajjud in the month of Ramadan. To me, and where I belong to before, there's something a norm in your life. I do not want to be with a family that is so divorced and distant from me. And these are the examples that he mentions in his book to give as an idea people like ourselves. A slave girl, a servant, was of this religiosity. And this means that alone ulama and scholars and sulaha and people of religiosity. From these great examples. So the way to make the month of Ramadan very prosperous, blessed and productive is, like I said, number one is to avoid sins. But obviously, if somebody is not in this routine to restrain himself before Ramadan and avoiding sins, he says it is very likely that a person will fall in the vicious cycle of sins even in the month of Ramadan. Because something that we are used to doing or habitual of doing as a pattern of life, and then it will be all of a sudden difficult for the person to put a break to it. because they say, practice makes a person not necessarily perfect, at least it's permanent the practice. Right? Likewise, habits, this is how we develop habits. If somebody unfortunately has developed a bad habit, a habit of sin, habit of disobedience to Allah, then it's going to be difficult for the person to suddenly put a break to it. Therefore, it is important as we draw ourselves closer to the month of Ramadan. Each day that goes by brings us one step forward to the goal of Ramadan. So what we need to really focus on, like I said, we all are, we all are sailing in the same boat, as they say, and no one is different than the other. Therefore, what our primary concern should be that we will both go through the list of activities in terms of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because each person is different, each person's weakness is different, each person's type of disobedience he or she may have in their life is also different. What I have may not be the same for you, what you have may not be the same for the other person. So it's a self-reflection, and then you accordingly adjust your life and make amendments and change habits and make firm resolute that I'm not going to do these things from now, and it should not be the intention, as ulama they say, just to take he mentioned in fact in Rajab Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala, there are some people, he mentioned different types of people when it comes to avoiding sins in Ramadan or before Ramadan. There are those who have been in the habit of sinning and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when Ramadan is about to come, they struggle to restrain themselves, and then they continue to disobey Allah during the month of Ramadan. And there are those who have successfully restrained, then he said that they are avoiding sins in Ramadan, but they are just waiting for the month of Ramadan to be over so that they could go back to their old habits. And there are those, he says, who had certain types of sins and disobedience, they took it seriously, repented and changed, with the intention never to return. So when you have this resolution, this type of firm intention, then Allah will facilitate ease in your decisions. There was a person who had a very sinful lifestyle, certain sins that were very, very, of a very great magnitude. And so he said, in one Ramadan, I fasted, doing my best, with the intention to discipline my soul in a spiritual sense. And he said, my efforts before Ramadan and my sincere efforts for Ramadan gave me the boost and restraint and ability to refrain from that sin for the next 7 years, not 7 years, 6, 7 months. So then I started feeling weak, and then I fell back in and relapsed. But the next Ramadan as it came, so I started preparing myself ahead of time. And that effect lasted nearly a year. So he says that in 2 to 3 years I was able to be fully out of that. In between 2 Ramadans I did not even relapse once. So it all goes by how you prepare yourself before Ramadan and how you spend your time in Ramadan. This is how it is. It's simple as that. So, my dear brothers and sisters, it is something, just think about it, our life, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And there are some sins that we have been doing for decades in life. Decades in life. And I'm not exaggerating. We all need to look into ourselves. And many Ramadans have gone by. Many Ramadans. How many Ramadans have we been fasting in our life? And if we had focused on one particular sin each Ramadan to improve and get out of that, we could have gone very far ahead in our life. There is no such goal. It has become a kind of routine. Ramadan comes, there are certain things that we do and change, and then Ramadan is over and it's over. As if our obedience to Allah is over, as if our restrictions are over, as if things that were haram have become halal, astaghfirullah again. So this attitude is very detrimental, not just to your spirituality, even to your deen. And it's not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to take us anywhere. And therefore, it is very, very important that we use these days that we have for reflection, retrospection, and and accountability, looking at our conditions, and then accordingly adjusting our lifestyle. There are many things that we could talk about on this topic, but I want to say that, of course, like I said, each person is different, and his weakness, her weakness is different, and disobedience is also different. But there are some types of sin. There are some types of and kinds of sins that are quite prevalent and common, that we all find one way or the other involved, indulged, and committing that. And these are the things that Rasulullah ﷺ more so and oftentimes warned us against, reminded us of the seriousness of these types of sins. And so what are those some common types of sins that we oftentimes, because of our weakness of iman, because of the society that we live in, the lifestyle that we are used to, and the environment around us, make it more difficult sometimes to avoid. But sin will remain sin, whether it is this reason or that reason. It does not mean unless a person is forced to commit a sin, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will forgive and overlook, because the person wanted to avoid but he was forced to do that. But that doesn't really happen in our life. That doesn't really happen. You just have to have strong intention. And I have seen many times, because of interfaith activities and interfaith dialogue and the outreach programs, there are people that we know it is something common in this culture to shake hands, right, in between male and female. So it happened quite a lot of times that the women, they extend their hands to shake. But I right away know my principles, and I know how to handle it, and I know how to react to it, and what to say. But many a time, although we may not have this intention, we slip, we feel embarrassed, and right away we extend our hand, and we shake the hands. That is also a sin, right? So you have to plan. I remember, subhanAllah, it's not to praise, it's just trying to hold on to our identity very seriously. When I was in the oath ceremony for my citizenship a few years ago, as you know, it's pre-pandemic time, so you have to be physically present. And it happened so that the judge was female judge, and it's part of the custom on that day, when each person goes, I think many of you have experienced this, so whoever it may be, whether it's a male judge or female judge, then you shake hand and then she gives you the certificate. That is the custom, that is the practice, and this is something known. And as I saw people lying before me, going through and of course doing the same thing, so I had this as a concern. So there were some volunteers, one of the women facilitating this whole process, and I reached out to her and I said, look, it is nothing against the custom or the value or the practice, but it is my religious belief that I, out of my religious values, do not shake hand with the opposite gender. So is there any way that you could accommodate me? Is there any way that you could make an exception? She said, no problem, let me talk to her. She went, just two people before me, she went or one person before me, explained to the female judge. And she accepted it. When I went, she handed my certificate to me, and then she placed her hand like this, saying, right? So you have to hold on to your own identity firm before you slip, to set a good example, and then if you happen to fall, Allah will excuse you and forgive you. But if you just think, oh, because of this custom, because of this practice, I could not, that is not an excuse. Did you really try your level best to avoid it? Right? Did you really try to avoid the situation and sin? Oftentimes we don't. When you don't, then you have no excuse. You have no excuse to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the blame will be on us. So what I was trying to say, this is the way that we can avoid, this is the way that we can absolve ourselves from disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some of the common sins that we oftentimes involve in this day and age is the sins related to our eyes, sins related to our ears, sins related to our tongue. These are the three organs that disobey and disrespect the teachings of Islam more often than the other times, more often than the other organs of the body. And as I said, because sometimes the society that we live in makes it very difficult, other times something else. But like I said, sin will remain sin regardless of the situation, whether it is this or that. So therefore, we have to train ourselves. We have to set up set some guidelines for ourselves in our life, in social interaction, and when we go out. And this is one of the things that I often say to the parents. As you are raising your children on good values, one of the things, especially to your daughters and to your sons, you need to tell them to learn to lower the gaze when you're out there in the public. Very few people say this to their children, because we ourselves don't practice this. Lower the gaze when you are speaking to the opposite gender. And this will make a difference. And you have to explain to them why. Right? So Mufti Meng Hafizahullah Ta'ala, one time he was in the States, the very known scholar. This shows, and he said this is the true story. He said, I'm not making it up. So he said there was one Muslim practicing individual, young man. So he was in an elevator going up to the 13th floor, and it happened so that there was another young girl in the same elevator, just two of them alone. There was no third person. Of course, she, as revealing as clothes she was wearing, and trying to get the attention of the other person to look at her. All what we see, the filth out there, is because we entertain this. If men decide to lower their gaze and not to look at, entertain, I guarantee you things will change. I guarantee you that no one will do what they do now in the name of liberalism, in the name of feminism, in the name of all, because they think because we have this weakness to entertain our eyes with this filth, therefore they are there. So when this girl was in the elevator and mashallah this young man who was religious and was not giving any attention to her, so she started feeling agitated as they were in that lift, in that elevator. So from first floor to 13th floor, she just tapped on the floor and things like that, but he did not even look at her. So when they reached the 13th floor, so he exited. As he exited, she also exited right away and left. And as she left, she chased him. And she asked him, hey. And then he turned around. As he turned around, he asked her, is there anything, sister, that I can help you with? Of course, very modestly and respectfully. She said, is there anything bad with me that you don't want to look at me? She was very straightforward and blunt. She said, no, it's not the reason, because our religion teaches that we look at women in a very modest manner, not with the lustful gaze. And unfortunately, the way you are dressed up, the way you reveal yourself is not the way that you be entertained to look at. And that really hit her. SubhanAllah, when you do something with ikhlas, it triggered her. And therefore she said, what religion do you follow? And SubhanAllah, she started learning about Islam and accepted Islam after 1 or 2 years. You set a precedence. It is all up to you how you want to handle the situation. The blame at the end of the day is on you and me, not the other person. Many of them don't even know. But if we slip, if we become weaker, then we give a bad name to the community, to the religion, and we become the bad apple in the society. And this is why I oftentimes have to write letters, right, to people who want to pray at work and who want certain religious dispensations and consideration. So their bosses say, we have other Muslims who don't want to pray, who don't go to pray, who don't ever ask even a permission for prayer. So why is it something important for you? Right? So we have one firm, Muslims working shoulder to shoulder, but there are some who want to practice, others who don't want to practice. So what kind of example are we setting in this workforce for others? And then we create barriers for those who want to follow the religion. Did you realize how serious this is? If Allah were to hold you accountable for that, what answers do you have? What are you going to say? So this is why I said it's so pathetic. It's so degrading the way we have become. And we don't want to change. We don't want to change. We don't want to learn. So this Ramadan, my dear brothers and sisters, once again, it is coming to us with many hopes, with many inspirations, many blessings. But the goal is, or it is all up to us whether we want to make this a life-changing experience, a U-turn in our life, or we want to continue to live as we lived, and spend many Ramadans and remain the same, perhaps become worse after Ramadan. So the choice at the end of the day is ours. So therefore, what we need to really focus on to getting out of the habit of sins. That is very important. Eyes, ears, and tongue. Imam Ghazali says, the enormous of tongue is the worst of all our tongues. And he enlisted about 60 to 80 enormities just the tongue commits. 60 to 80, not one or two. We just think one
This is why Ramadan is the month to restrain our anger, our emotions, to bring discipline, a true form of discipline that nobody really has seen before. So that is the goal. And therefore, and inshallah, when we do that, in the tafsir of the ayat of Surah Al-Shura, it is mentioned, it says, when you avoid sins, there are 4 or 5 blessings that Allah gives you. One of them, he says, it illuminates your heart. And Nurun fil qalb, he says, and it also lights up, it illuminates your face. And Qurratun fil badan, the a'mal salihah that you do, they do not just bring light to your heart or brightness to your face, but also energy to your body, he says. Qurratun fil badan. And then he says, wasi'atun fil rizq, that will also expand your rizq. Wa muhabbatun fi qulub al-khalq, your a'mal salihah will make you a beautiful person in the eyes of others. People will look at you as a person of respect. But when you do not do that, just reverse everything otherwise. There will be a darkness on your face, darkness in your heart, weakness in your body. You feel lethargic. You don't want to pray. You don't want to do anything. And people will hate you. So choice is yours. You want to be this or that. At the end of the day, we have to make concrete decisions and wise and smart choices before it is too late. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us tawfiq to act upon what has been said. May Allah forgive our sins and draw us closer to Him. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.